Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating and honestly highly significant development in military modernization. We are looking at Pakistan's massive push to transition away from traditional, unguided artillery and move toward a truly modern battlefield doctrine. And right at the center of this whole shift, well, it's a family of precision-guided rocket and missile systems known as the Fateh series. So we're going to break down the technology, the overarching strategy, and the real-world impact of these systems, using the data right in front of us.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the precision strike gap to understand the operational problem. Second, the dawn of Fateh 1. Then, evolving to Fateh 4, tracking that technological development. Fourth, we'll cover modern battlefield roles. And finally, we'll analyze the South Asian strategic impact and the geopolitical fallout.
All right, Section 1, the precision strike gap. Let's talk about the strategic dilemma military planners in South Asia were actually facing. To really understand why a brand new weapons system gets built, we have to look at the problem it solves, right? So the crucial point is the operational gap between the two extremes. On one hand, you have traditional artillery. It's the standard backbone of the military, sure, but it completely lacks the required range and pinpoint precision. On the other hand, you have ballistic missiles. They definitely have the power and the range, but using them in a region surrounded by nuclear-armed neighbors, that carries the severe, almost unthinkable risk of triggering a massive, uncontrolled escalation.
And that left a glaring void right in the middle of their operational playbook. The Fateh series was developed specifically as the solution to fill that exact strategic void. It bridges the gap by providing tactical and operational level precision strike capabilities. Basically, it gives commanders an incredibly accurate, highly effective tool that still operates safely below that dangerous threshold of a strategic ballistic missile launch.
Moving on to Section 2, Dawn of Fateh 1. Let's look at the first weapon in this family to see how this gap was initially filled.
Take a look at this action shot. This is the Fateh 1, the very first publicly acknowledged system in the program. You can see this guided multi-launch rocket system firing off in a desert environment. And man, it is a major leap beyond your standard conventional artillery rockets. This thing is built entirely for speed, volume, and absolute accuracy. Let's unpack what the Fateh 1 can actually do. It boasts a range of about 120 to 140 kilometers. But you know the real game changer here is its mobility. The multi-tube launcher is heavily wheeled, specifically for shoot-and-scoot tactics. If you're not familiar, shoot-and-scoot essentially means a crew can roll up, unleash a massive saturation strike of guided rockets, and literally drive away immediately. They are shooting and scooting for their lives before the enemy even has a chance to trace the trajectory and fire back. It's fast and it's highly evasive.
Section 3, evolving to Fateh IV. Let's move to and see how this builds, because the rapid technological advancement of this system is pretty wild.
And this brilliantly illustrates that evolution. We've got a side-by-side comparison here. On the left, the Fateh 2, which still uses that multi-tube rocket launcher setup we just talked about. But contrast that with the Fateh 4 on the right. Notice the difference? We are no longer looking at a box of rockets. This is a much larger, heavier, standalone tactical missile. The hardware itself is literally changing to map to a much larger strategic role.
But before we jump too far ahead to the fourth generation, let's touch on the Fateh 2 upgrades. The military stated this system was specifically developed to improve operational accuracy. So we're talking improved avionics, advanced navigation aids, and enhanced survivability. Strategic observers actually view the Fateh 2 as a really critical piece of Pakistan's broader effort to build a layered conventional deterrence architecture, one that's specifically tailored for short-duration, high-intensity conflicts.
But then, the program pushes the boundaries even further. The Fateh IV extends that operational reach to several hundred kilometers. I mean, that is a massive jump from the original 140 kilometers of the Fateh 1. And this shift, it perfectly mirrors a much broader global trend right now. Modern armies everywhere are moving away from traditional mass artillery and relying more and more on precision-guided tactical missiles that can strike deep, deep into enemy territory.
Now, a totally crucial aspect of this entire program that we have to highlight is indigenous defense production. The Fateh series isn't just about going out and buying weapons off the shelf. It represents a massive national drive towards self-reliance. Driven by the Strategic Plans Division, this is all about local Pakistani military engineers and scientists integrating advanced battlefield technologies completely internally. It is a huge statement of their domestic industrial modernization.
All right, Section 4, Modern Battlefield Roles. We've seen the hardware, but how are these weapons actually used in modern, network-centric warfare?
In modern warfare, speed and precision absolutely trump sheer volume. If we map out high-value targets against their operational roles, you see command centers and logistics hubs being hit with deep tactical strikes. Air defense batteries are specifically targeted to suppress defenses and clear the skies. And then you have troop concentrations facing what the military calls counter-force operations, which basically just means striking the enemy's forces directly to neutralize them before they can even engage on the front line.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the overarching doctrine tying all of this together: graduated escalation control. Why does this matter so much? Well, it's the ability to execute a strong, punishing conventional military response while intentionally keeping the conflict below the nuclear threshold. By relying on these precise conventional weapons, a military can retaliate forcefully without backing their adversary into a corner where they feel forced to deploy strategic nuclear weapons. It's a very delicate but vital balancing act in a nuclear-armed region.
Section 5. South Asian Strategic Impact. Let's slow down for a second here, because we really need to underscore the heavy, real-world strategic implications of these systems. The impact of the Fateh series extends heavily into strategic messaging. Public missile tests, military parades, media releases, none of these are accidental. They are highly calculated geopolitical moves. While these public displays certainly boost domestic morale, they also serve as direct psychological communication to adversaries. They act as clear, undeniable signals of operational readiness, especially during periods of high tension and conflict rhetoric.
Looking at the broader regional balance impartially, the integration of precision strikes, drones, and AI is fundamentally changing the military planning for both sides. For Pakistan, the strategy strengthens their conventional deterrence, allowing them to project power without immediately escalating to strategic missiles. Conversely, for India, these systems present a really complex operational challenge. They complicate existing air defense networks and make battlefield survivability much more difficult, particularly in those high-speed engagements that come with almost zero warning time.
To concisely synthesize everything we've looked at today, there's a quote from the source material that perfectly summarizes the long-term impact. Systems like Fateh are likely to play an increasingly central role in shaping future strategic calculations. It just confirms that the era of relying on mass, unguided artillery is fading out. It's being replaced, permanently, by precision-guided battlefield warfare.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought to consider. As South Asia's military modernization races forward, how will precision strike systems like the Fateh series permanently alter the timeline and the stakes of short-warning engagements? The window for diplomacy is shrinking, while the speed of these precision strikes is only increasing. It's a lot to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep asking the big questions about our ever-evolving global security landscape.